Hi, everybody. This is day 1167, 1167 days since Richard went missing. He didn't just go missing, it was a code red. It was retaliation against a whistleblower. Of course, it was. And, um, and it escalated. It escalated with the approval of his chain of command to to silence him forever, to do away with him. So it wasn't enough that they retaliated against him continuously and severely for months for being a whistleblower, not giving him whistleblower protection. No, they they set out to uh, methodically organized waterless waterboarding. That's what a very good friend called it, a waterless waterboarding of a whistleblower. And they started with trying to discredit him. So, because if you're a whistleblower and you have no criminal record at all, you're the distinguished honor graduate for your cycle in basic training and AIT, and you are the guidon bearer for your unit, and you are an aspiring CID agent, you have officially inquired about becoming a CID agent, and you are a combat lifesaver and no criminal history at all, um, you're very, very credible. You're a superstar. But they didn't want that. See, they didn't want that. They were protecting somebody. We think it was Dallas Hart that they were protecting. We think that it was others in this that they were protecting. And they decided that they needed to discredit him. And that's why they started with a setup job in a parking lot using a canine police officer to discredit him. And that went wrong. It was very sloppy. Like we said at the beginning, that was a soup sandwich. There was no camera footage. And if you are running your lights to stop anybody, to arrest anybody, you your camera automatically starts. So there's no camera. The whole it's very questionable about the breathalyzer situation. We have refused. And I remember, and many of you know this from our live streams, that Special Agent Marlon Soto could never get the breathalyzers. It was really weird. He couldn't get the numbers. He couldn't, and then, of course, there was no counseling slip for any of that. There was a counseling slip for that event, and they put 0.04 BAC, which is like gargling with mouthwash, or just a squirt of perfume. And they decided that they were going to use that as a foundation for a GOMAR, for the GOMAR to make that permanent, to destroy. That means they flag the soldier so they can't do anything. Um, and because they can't do anything and it's permanent, then they start the chapter 14. And mind you, that chapter 14 has been wiped from his files. They have no knowledge of that. We have been working for months to try to get that information that we have, that we have, but when we received the archive, it was sponged, it was sanitized from the chapter 14, and also from the Field Grade Article 15 that its basis was what the parking lot incident, right? That's what the basis was. Well, that whole parking lot incident where they had uh, it was a soup sandwich because it was a setup to discredit Richard as a whistleblower, right? They had to tarnish him. They had to start retaliating against him. And these are very established people in Fort Bliss. You wouldn't believe it, but it's true. Dallas Hart is very established. He grew up there. He went to high school there. He went to college in New Mexico, Las Cruces, in Las Cruces right there, very close to where I was born. And let's see, make sure I'm getting a red button here. Make sure that I'm on here because I have so much to tell you and I don't want anyone to miss what I'm about to say. I'm going to drop a name that I already dropped. Okay, there it is. Okay, so it seems to be working fine. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for your prayers. Um, so this is we've been working very hard behind the scenes. I hope everyone had a great weekend, but today is Monday, and so much happened last week, and I reviewed that uh, last night. And today we're talking about um, the connections that the Hart family have. They're very established there in Fort Bliss, in El Paso, even in New Mexico, and and also over in Mexico, okay, because they're LDS. And you have to, if you want to go to the temple, you have to go across the border into Juarez to go to the LDS, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, to go to the service there in the temple. You can even drive even further to Nova Casa Grandes, past that a bit to a place called Colonial Juarez. I hope I'm saying that right. I know I'm not pronouncing it uh, totally correct, but Colonial Juarez, where they have another temple. There's no temples on the American side in that area. And that's very, very important information because this whole area, swath of area, is they're very connected. Uh, Mitt Romney's father was born there in Colonial Juarez. It is absolutely beautiful, with all of their ranches and farms and the mountains and the beautiful school there. It is like a European school. It's so beautiful. The best of the best. You'd want your children to go there. And not that I'd want them to go there, but in a building like that with all of the facilities, it's absolutely beautiful. And, of course, them having a temple. Um, yeah, so that's, um, and also they have an airport there. They have an airport there that's affiliated, I believe that from my research, with the Mexican military. And that Mexican military then works hand in hand with the American military. And so a lot of things that are landing there in Nove Casa Grandes is, a lot of things there. Let's just say there is military flights that go into that area for various reasons, for various training reasons, humanitarian reasons, so they say, and many more reasons. So that is uh, for your information. For your information to understand the depth of this connection. When you are in charge of the IDES Pueblo, you're in charge of the health board for veterans disability benefits. you have a lot of power and you have a very, very important position because you have access to veterans' most sensitive files. This is very, very important. So they don't give that job to anybody. And remember that Leilani Hart, we have information that she was bragging that she was controlling the CID, the Criminal Investigative Division there on Fort Bliss, that she was the one that was controlling it. She was the puppet master for Marlon Soto. She had Marlon Soto on strings. She had Tavita Nusa on strings. She had Ron Steig on strings. She had many in that office on strings. So she said she was controlling it. So I think that's very interesting because she's also linked to 13299 Gateway Boulevard, which is Dreams Cabaret, right? So she's linked to Dreams Cabaret, which is a strip joint. It's an adult entertainment strip joint. Why is she connected to Dreams Cabaret? Um, yeah, so that's another. This is a very tough person with a long history, and I have to say, more and more of her criminal history is coming in because we are getting veteran support now. Not only are we getting institutional support, but we're getting veteran support. The veterans are getting tired of this. And they want to support uh, courageous veterans that want our military to work properly, to be strong, to be an army of one, to be all you can be, to defend the Constitution, the land, and the people. These are what the veterans they have seen, But of course, uh, we're because we're human, we're susceptible to um, coaxing and deals, deals that might sell our soul, and also um, to be lured into situations and then regret it, to be lured. And so Leilani Hart, uh, might very well, because being involved with a strip club, having an affair with CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa, being very, very close to Thomas Kane, very close, who was, uh, but I say is because he is the DES, the chief of security in our son's case. And so that's very, very important um, to know that she was very close to him, very close to CID because he would work very close to CID. And of course, then she would know um, Ann Ogle. And she would also know this Laura Stevens. Laura Stevens and Laura Stevens, Provencio, I'm trying to do it by memory, Holquin. Holquin, yeah. So she is, I just want to drop her name right now because she plays a very important role in our son's case. And, um, I will go more into that this week. Uh, it's kind of like this whole Danae Katzen situation with Danae Katzen having a role, having an affiliation with CID, and no wonder that KTSM Natasha Paloma would spend hours with us with that just to do a little teeny weeny clip about a gun in the back seat. Well, I shouldn't say it was a little teeny weeny clip. It was choreographed. But the point is that the CID never acted on Danae Katzen, never communicated well with us with that. They just gave us very lame little excuses, and that was not good enough. Our son's missing, and she says she has very important information, and you're just kind of like not even communicating with us about it. Oh yeah, whatever, no, let's hear what you have to say. Let's call us in, let's meet, let us have some information about it. And it took them a month before they gave us information. And by then, we were starting to understand a little bit, just a piece of it. This is all about morsel upon morsel, because this is an ongoing investigation. And so for people to even want to obstruct justice, want to come together to hinder the due progress on this. Are they going to keep jurisdiction in Texas considering so many conflicts of interest in Richard's case? We will see. We will see, because I think Attorney General Ken Paxton, being acquitted, being exonerated, and now being back in his very large office. The Attorney General office in Texas is the largest Republican office of attorneys in the United States of America. So with that kind of institutional support, with the institutional support from Bill Hicks, the DA there in El Paso, with the institutional support with the Department of State, with the institutional support, and these are just ones that I know that I can publicly say, because we have now Fort Bliss looking into this travel voucher, and I posted it up, of that this is Dallas Hart's alibi, okay? And he gave this to us, months, way over a year ago. I can get the exact date, but he gave this to us a long time ago, maybe 2 years ago now, maybe not quite that long, anyway, as his alibi. And I don't know, but we didn't buy it, because that's not how they do travel vouchers. Everything's electronic for a long time now. And where's his orders? And he could easily establish an alibi for himself if he wanted to in our son's case. And he hasn't done it. He's given us this very questionable travel voucher. And so that is Fort Bliss is now looking at this to see if this is an intentional fabrication of evidence. That is the terminology that they use, an intentional fabrication of evidence, which is a serious crime. So, could they because we turned this into the CID, could they nix it or confirm it? Absolutely, they could have. Did they contact us about it to tell us yay or nay? No. The communication from CID, the Criminal Investigative Division, that should be in communication with us at all times, did not. And they were just talking circles with us on the phone. It was such a waste of time, Because tell us bluntly if there's any weight behind this travel voucher, or have they confirmed this travel voucher? And they did not, could not, would not. So, what does that say? They don't want to say yes, they don't want to say no. So, really, Dallas Hart to me doesn't have an alibi. And so, Fort Bliss now is going to look into this and to see if it's a deliberate fabrication of evidence. And now we have tampering of evidence. We've been in contact with the Interpol. We're still in contact with the Interpol because of tampering with evidence and providing a tampered photo, one that was overlaid, a composite. And we believe that composite, because of the very high numbers that Dallas Hart gets when we enter that picture in to a forensic analysis of that picture, he comes out very, very high. Richard comes out very, very low. The the measurements in the eyes and the nose and everything is way off for Richard, but it's right on the money, just about right on the money for Dallas Hart, especially when you run a picture before he had his nose job. So even after his nose job, the measurements work out really well, but it goes up a good 6 points higher before the nose job. So I think that is I think he's had his teeth also done. His teeth done. So this is, really important when you're doing some kind of forensic analysis on photos. And so we question that. The CID knows that we question that. But will they provide the answer? No, we have to find Richard Halliday. We are the ones that are doing the investigation and working hard to get all of the institutional support that we need to get the answers to our son's case. That's not easily gotten, right? I mean, we're at 1,167 days. So this is important information. Now, uh, you know, I'm I'm getting a degree in private investigation. Okay, Team Farm Richard Halliday is getting a degree in private investigation, and so let me put this on this display. I should have put it on for the travel voucher. Here's a travel voucher. You can go to the Telegram, and it's on here. So I put that Leilani Hart is linked to Dreams Cabaret. I need to put Laura Stevens, Provencio Holquin on there also. I will this week. This is important information. I need to put on the whole Danae uh, information. That's also very important because, um, and then I'll get back to pictures, but I want to talk about this CID internship. If you're at UTEP and you want to be a CID or a private investigator that is contracted out by the Criminal Investigative Division of the Army, you can go to the CID and you don't need anything except for the discretion, the approval of uh, the CID supervisor, right? Or the I guess the special agent in charge, right? Um, so we asked around, and absolutely, sometimes you can get credit for being an intern in there. Sometimes students come and they do an intern for 6 to 12 weeks and they don't get credit. They're just wanting to see what it was like, um, and see if that's something that they wanted to get into. So you don't need all of this talk that you have to have certain credentials in order to be a CID intern is false. Okay, I want to make that very clear. You don't need anything. You don't need these credentials. You need to be a student. UTEP, absolutely. UTEP was since 2017. You can find online an article that UTEP, and I'll even post that up too. UTEP was starting internships there on Fort Bliss. And sometimes they were for credit, sometimes they weren't. And it was at the discretion of that office, of that agency. Okay? So if Danae Katzen wanted to be a PI, or maybe she was administrative, right? Maybe that was her whole position as in the CID. Could she be connected? Could she be affiliated with CID? 100%. 100%. Could Richard be an intern at the CID, being at the discretion of the agency with the approval? Yes. Did he have to have loads of criteria? No. Do we have the document saying, inquiring to the CID, a letter asking, saying, I want to be a CID agent? What do I need to do? Yes, we have that. So Richard absolutely was taking classes. We know that for a fact. He was absolutely interested in being a criminal investigative division special agent. We know that because of the paper. We know that because now, did he talk to us a lot about that? No. Why? I mean, I know he did. He did. But no, not a lot. Why? Because of us moving. People have to remember that he joined from Korea. We were in Germany and Ireland. Once Richard joined the military, Rob and I looked at each other and said, okay, it's time to go back to the States because we're having grandbabies. We're getting married. They're having grandbabies. We want to be close to our grandbabies. Um, you know, uh, so anyway, we decided we would close down Germany. We would close down Ireland. That was a big job because we weren't sponsored. We were actually working there as civilians. So we had to sell the house with the furniture and everything. So we didn't have to move all that back. That was one thing that we were doing. The other thing, once we got back and our daughter coming, other personal things going on, and then COVID hit. So our communication with Richard was there absolutely. You can for Robert's wedding, that was another thing. Allison's wedding, Robert's wedding, um, just so much going on. And it's like, hi, how are you doing? Great, you're doing great, wonderful, and a little small talk here and there. And that was, and also I have to say, um, oh, I don't really, it wasn't really like that. Maybe he was a little bit more, he's a guy. He's a guy. So when people ask me, why do I not know this detail about Park? We knew he wanted to be CID. We knew he loved private investigation, but a lot was going on at that time. And he's a grown. I know he's a minor, but we had so much faith in him. We had so much faith. I was not even worried. I'm telling you, I was walking around our neighborhood, beautiful neighborhood in Sarasota, Florida, when we got back, praising God for Richard in the military because he had a job. And, with COVID, it was just horrible um, for others, for my son in laws. And so we were, really, and I was very grateful for Robert. um, being able to work the way he was working. So, um, yeah, that is just um, very easily explained. And now we know. Um, we know. We know why he couldn't tell us everything. Because I don't think he could go beyond saying, Mom, it's really bad. I just want to get out. It's really bad. When you're talking about the emergency intake center and 85,000 unaccounted for minors, and this is before we actually knew the numbers. This is when it was like 20,000. What's happening to these children? Where are they going? What is Richard finding out? He's with the CID mindset. Mindset. And he is, he's seeing things. So much so that he's saying it's so bad. And you have Leilani Hart having so much power, and she's affiliated with the strip club. And she, remember the harassment and the false allegations she made to cause chaos at Park. And yet, you have this support from Thomas Kane, who's supposed to keep everyone safe, but then he gets out real quick and then he puts in his packet to get his disability because he was with the Navy. But anyway, I mean, it's just they sell their soul. They sell their soul. And they don't understand that you can't have all of the benefits of God's blessings without the discipline. Without the discipline, without the moral fortitude. You see? And once that's gone, then all the blessings, the benefits, the organized society starts crumbling. And you just, so many people suffer. And you see that with our debt. They're talking about, and I'm going to get off on a tangent a little bit, but I think this is a really important point to make, and why the veterans are supporting us more and more every day. And that's because they're seeing the debt. They're seeing what's happening in Congress, that Congress has no discipline at all, because nobody wants a pay cut. Nobody. And because they're thieves, and they're thieves, they say that they are going to tax us for a certain reason, and yet they find all these, like, oh, we're so benevolent and we have this benevolent reason why we want to tax you, but they don't do what they say. And how do we know that they don't do what they say? Is because we're $33 trillion in debt plus, and it's raising every day, and we don't have infrastructure. Our infrastructure is crumbling. Our schools are a hoax. Are a hoax. And why do I say that? Because I look back at architecture. I look back at food. I look back at the talents. And I'm talking about 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And I was given the privilege to live in Europe. I also was given the privilege to live in the United States. Right there in El Paso, you can go to the Church of St. Clement. You can see what they built. If you have never been to that church, you should go. It is amazing. The nave is amazing. And that kind of structure, that kind that you find everywhere, that's talent. That's education. Because to get that talent perfected, you have to have the education. You have to have the geometry. You have to have the discipline. You have to have the skill, and the skill has to come from somewhere. And you can be talented in that skill, but if you're not trained to develop your talent, every singer knows that. The music. The music just was amazing. Healthcare, totally amazing. I was very privileged to go to Malta with Richard, with Richard, to see the hospitalers, to see that, of course, Rob being in medicine, we did that. So, you know, we're we're we don't have the fruit of $33 trillion of debt. There's nothing there. And we have too much um, people being destroyed by the false narrative and the culture around us. And this is very important in understanding Richard's case because Richard came in aspiring, and there's a criminal class right there. And we believe it was right there in the Hart family. And we have already the criminal history of Leilani Hart. Um, we believe it was bigger than that. And so, with that kind of power over Fort Bliss, you're going to have a lot of people getting hurt, a lot of code reds, a lot of rapes, a lot of children being hurt, a lot of children being used for the child porn. You're going to have our coffers raided, our arms rooms raided, the paperwork, the inventories tampered with. If they're going to tamper with Richard's case, and they have, with Richard's surveillance videos, and they have, with Richard's file, and they have, and they're going to do a Danae Katzen on us, that we absolutely believe so, and they're going to do a PI, Phil Waters, on us, which we believe so. We believe that. If they're going to do a Nadal Baim on us, meaning he couldn't stand it. He had to tell somebody what he knew. And he's the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM. If they're going to do these FBI informants, these, if they're going to do that on us, if they're going to send out a group while the investigation is going on to interfere in the case, which they absolutely have, if they're going to pull a El Paso Matters and a KTSM for false narratives to kind of control this, and they don't retract and they don't update and all of that, which, El Paso Matters, Korchurga really interfered in this case. But with Danae, if I was that soldier, I don't know why that soldier didn't call us right away to say, wait a minute, the fear level was shown by the paralegal that we went up to his house because he was calling out like a madman about Richard, and so we decided, okay, let's hear what he has to say. And then he was shaking like crazy and looked like he needed to go into, a spa for a year because he was so shaken, so afraid, so afraid. And so I'm going to say this. When we think that the special agent Marlon Soto committed crimes in this case, was part of this case because Richard was affiliated with the CID, absolutely it gets a little bit nerve wracking. Tavita Nusa, of course, lost his badge. He's, no longer in the military. He was removed from the military. And very interesting that David Hart didn't come when he was in El Paso during that time with Jay Paulin and didn't come to our rallies to even talk and wasn't even invited to the meetings to talk. And nobody was invited to the meetings to talk to us except for Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz that was in that line. Where was Michael Ruggiero? He could have told us to our face what what he likes to spew out from the spleen on social media, but he could have told us to our face. We could have asked him questions like, about Richard's belongings and who was in charge of Richard's belongings. Well, the platoon leader. The platoon leader. Who do we think is the platoon leader? I mean, we have witness testimony that it was Dallas Hart. So that's why this alibi that I have up on the screen is so important. And we just went full circle. So I think that was pretty good. We just went full circle. And that's why this is really, really important. Okay, so can we get this information? Have we collected 3 years plus of information? Of course we have. We have Team Find Richard Halliday. My husband has 30 years in the Army. We have connections. And so, of course, people have been sending us things. And Richard knew these, you know, Richard is beloved. He's a hero. And so, of course, people have helped us and taught us how to be an investigator. Oh, you can do this, you can do that. That's how I know. That's how I found out who Nadal Baim is using these tools and reviewing those videos over and over again that we got CCTV footage that we shared with the world, with CID, with the FBI. And the FBI then took over the case the day that Nadal Baim walked into that Dollar General and said that the Department of State, that the FBI found Richard's remains in Juarez, and that the Department of State has confirmed, and now lately another Department of State has confirmed that Richard's remains were found. And, you're going to hear me say, oh, Richard's remains were found on Fort Bliss. Richard's remains were found in the wilderness. Richard's remains were found in Juarez. And they're all true because he was dismembered. He was dismembered. Because we have the autopsies that we can't get a yay or nay on. I mean, how hard is it for the command to say, look, we've checked into these. We want to make sure that you understand that these autopsy reports are not credible. But they haven't done that, y'all. They have not done that. They have been silent on that. They have been silent on these 3 autopsy reports that we have. Okay? Why? Why are they silent? They could easily undo that. Just extinguish that idea. But they haven't done that. They are quiet on it. So we have been able to get all of this information from all of our sources, and there's so many. And I want to say thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you so much. And I've said thank you every day, every day for all the people that come on. This is so long, and this is so diabolical, and this is so irregular, so unbelievable that our army would be weaponized against the distinguished honor graduate for his cycle and basic training because he became a whistleblower in El Paso. To keep Fort Bliss going, to keep Fort Bliss going, because Fort Bliss doesn't have a mission, and it's like, oh, shut up. Don't make Fort Bliss look worse than what it is. Don't tell the public that their taxpayers' money in the military is to ruin their volunteer sons and daughters because the barracks aren't following the SOP. We have a co-ed barracks. You know how many people didn't? I didn't know that. I didn't know it. And I tell, do you know that our barracks are co-ed? No way. Yes way. Yes way. No way. Couldn't be. Yes, they are. They are. And that's why there's a rape problem. And their rape program, which is 20 years old, right? Never goes, oh, well, maybe if we separate the men and the women, we wouldn't have so many rapes. We wouldn't have so much sexual harassment. No, they never say that because they set up our daughters, our volunteer daughters. They set up our volunteer sons. And they make those barracks, instead of following the SOP, the standard operating procedures, they make them marketplaces for illegal drugs. Why? Someone's making money off of those drugs selling to our soldiers that they give $5,000 a pop for $25,000 enlistment bonus. Someone's making money off of them. And then they bring in these young party girls, and they might go over to Dreams Cabaret. Say, oh, come on, honey. You need to watch me at Dreams Cabaret. I've got a new hula dance. Come on. And they're then grooming our sons and daughters to think, oh, they're cool, into these sex cults. And then all of a sudden, they're sending them child porn. And all porn is child sex trafficking. And then you have, next thing you know, you have 85,000 unaccounted for minors right there on Fort Bliss that's being, in charge of their mental health and welfare is Ann Ogle. And no one's questioning her and saying, what did we pay you for? We've got soldiers' children being raped in Leilani Hart's master bedroom, and Leilani Hart is walking around. James Hart is walking around. One of them has to be arrested. And then there's incest going on, and that child that was raped, was by multiple members of the family. So who is that? Who's the multiple members of the family? And no one's arrested for that? Why isn't Ann Ogle being brought in and questioned about that? And questioned about the 85,000 unaccounted for minors there, and all of the child porn being made. Where is, you have Leilani mentioning many times that her husband, and we have it confirmed, that they were producing child pornography and selling it to the soldiers. Now, that needs to be clarified. When people are saying, oh, well, yeah, I can confirm that. I think James needs to go to Angela Kucherga of El Paso Matters and have a press conference with his wife, Leilani Hart, if that is, whatever wife, because, there's all these allegations that he has multiple wives. How can he work at VA, have multiple wives, and then have all these allegations for child pornography and and be accused of having an affair with Lisa Lennon Williams, his co-worker? And bring on Amber Chase to his to with Angela Kachurga to clarify all of this, because we'd like to know. We've got information that she works right there in the same IDES Pueblo, or at the VA with James. One happy family. And that explains why she has been so protective of Dallas Hart. She's, told us a lot about Dallas Hart. And we know that Dallas Hart was this great wannabe pilot, that he wants to be a pilot, that he was getting ready to do a solo, that Deborah Sarah West was teaching him how to fly planes. We know that. And we know that Deborah has a brother. We know that Deborah has a brother. And we know about this plane. And then all of a sudden, they just say, oh, we got to wipe that off. We got to wipe that all off. And, I got to go to California and I've got to start all over again. It shouldn't take me too long because I've got all that experience, but I can't admit that I was being taught by Deborah Sarah West. And then Corinne says, they don't even know each other. Okay, well, go talk to Amber Chase. Go talk to the witnesses. Go talk to the Facebook posts that he was getting ready to do his solo. You don't get into a plane and say, I'm going to do a solo. So, and then here is this 2004 Pontiac, Montana. This is how, we're, doing this research. James C. Hart, Courtney Hart, that's Dallas's father, 2004 Pontiac, Montana. And then, this goes to another person that's very close to Leilani. I'm not going to drop her name. I will say it's a her. So it's, and maybe it's down in the lake. Maybe it's down, Corinne says the 2004 Pontiac, Montana is down in the lake. Okay, whatever. Yeah. But we're doing that research, and let's see if I have any questions here. Let me make sure I got all my notes here. The criminal history for Leilani keeps piling up. The Dreams Cabaret. The Veterans Circle is stepping forward. The travel voucher is being looked at to see if it was intentionally fabricating evidence. Laura Stevens, Provencio Holquin, she is connected to this case. That's very interesting. Oh my goodness. I must have accidentally followed her, and now she's looking me up. Isn't that what the spokesperson said at Park University to me? Well, answered me in an email. She looked. It was late. He accidentally pushed the wrong button. Anyway. Yeah, Fort Bliss will review the travel voucher. Also, the connection with the flight lessons and the first solo flight, getting ready to do that. Deborah Sarah West. Um, yeah. So that's oh, and the CID. The CID was very important information for people to understand. Absolutely, you do not need credentials or some kind of prerequisite to become a CID intern. Okay? You don't. You can be a UTEP student, you could be a Park student, you could just go into them, and if at their discretion they're taking you seriously as a soldier, as a student, they can say, yes, you can be a CID intern, and voila, you've got some colleagues going on there, right? You've got some CID intern colleagues going on. Yeah. Yes. And it's so interesting. We know that this is high up, y'all. Okay? Because there has been so much tampering. So much tampering. And the plane that we have the tail number for, it's very interesting. And yeah, um, we're just getting some extra information on that, and then I'll release it. I'll release it, and you can decide for yourself. But just the flight logs, where it flew, what it was used for in Richard's case, it's very important. So, and who flew it, right? Um, thank you so much for your prayers. Good evening. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you for your love and prayers and always coming on. Signature for someone else on the voucher. Is that normal? Uh, well, they're looking at that voucher. I sent that voucher when I got it. I sent it to James Hart. And he's like, "Where did you get that from?" And I'm like, "I thought I got it from you." But apparently I didn't, you know? So I think I got it from Chris Martin. Chris Martin passed it on. I think it was Corinne West, Chris Martin, that gang there. Which is, crazy. This is an ongoing investigation, and you've got a group of people, and they are taking time out every day to, I don't know, that they're not giving anything of substance. They're saying that you have to have some kind of criteria to be a CID agent. No, you don't have to. You don't have to. I got that confirmed. You do not have to. So, um, okay, thank you. It says signed for, signatures for someone else's. Okay, no, okay. All right, so that needs to be explained. But this is all really, really big news to think that the Department of State, two times now, is saying that Richard's remains were found in Mexico and that Danae has an affiliation with CID. Richard has an affiliation with CID. Um, and it puts everyone together. Why they were telling me for 3 months in these vile, vulgar messages that they judged Richard. They judged him. See, he didn't want to play their game. He was absolutely connected and um, to that CID group, that VA group, that CID group, and of course it was all through Leilani Hart and James Hart and Tavita Nusa and Marlon Soto and Danae Katzen and Belin's parents, and then Belin and Park University. That's this circle. And he saw something and he said something, and they did not want to lose their jobs and they didn't want to have another Guillen situation. That's what we think. If they think something different, then let's see their information. Give us proper alibis. Give us signed documents. Give us the CPS FOIA request answered. Give us the IG complaints. Give us the Park University academic records. Give us all of the things that we've asked for, and and make the case. We're making the case for our evidence that we have found. Why don't they, if Leilani Hart is connected to Dreams Cabaret, a strip joint, that then definitely puts something in common with Belen Rocha, right? And with Belen's oldest sister. That makes them have something in common. And so our question that we need clarified, that Belen Rocha's parents worked for the businesses of like Thomas Kane and Ann Ogle. We would like to know, we've got this alliance in Fort Bliss. They're telling us things. We've got veterans now coming forward. Which brings me to a major point. If you have not signed the petition yet to surround this very courageous active duty soldier on Fort Bliss with your love, with your support, with praise, you need to sign that petition. Don't stop there. Campaign for that petition, because his life is in danger. And we need to make sure everyone knows on Fort Bliss, and all of these evil people that like to do these code reds, that we are watching. We are watching over this soldier for this congressional inquiry that he has put in, not only for Richard, but for this wrong SOPs on Fort Bliss, the 14-year-old girl that was living in the barracks being prostituted out to the soldiers. He also, in his congressional inquiry, is complaining about the JAG not taking what the soldiers see as far as fraud, waste, and abuse, and doing anything about it. They're blocking it. So that's very, very important. And we see that in our case with a key witness in our case being blocked by the JAG, by a convicted criminal, Leilani Hart, over and over convicted criminal, and they are blocking a key witness in our son's case without an investigation, without notification, without due process, without doing anything, just because Leilani Hart, it shouldn't be called Fort Bliss, it should be called Fort Hart, right? Because she seems, and James seems, to be controlling the veterans out of the VA, controlling the CID, controlling the command, controlling the JAG, controlling Park University, that has been gifted with bricks and mortars, beautiful bricks and mortars on Fort Bliss for free at the expense of taxpayers. They get that business free. They get to charge tuition to our soldiers. We pay the soldiers' tuition that goes into the pockets of Park, okay? Of Park University. Sweet deal. They've got a sweet deal. And, Leilani Hart can bring down a professor that she doesn't like with false allegations. She can even say that the district regional manager, or the regional manager, is sexually harassing her, and then it's find a false allegation, but yet he thinks, well, I know this is not going to end because Leilani Hart has renamed Fort Bliss Fort Hart. And then we have Dallas Hart. How did he go from the college to Green to Gold to be right there at Fort Bliss? Why didn't they send him away to a different base? You know, I mean, who is doing the assignments, right? Who do they know in HRC, right? That that all, and there's more to that, and there's more to that. So we would like them to make their case, not a hit job. I'm not trying to falsely accuse Leilani Hart of being connected to Cabaret, a strip joint. I'm not, trying to do a hit job on her. I'm just giving facts of what we are finding out that make connections with Belen Rocha, right? Because Belen Rocha is a main player in this whole case. So, and it is very interesting that Danae can have this huge criminal history and then there's a plea deal. Then there's, charges dropped or whatever. Um, yeah, there's just and tampering with this kind of case, it sends a loud message to our service members that our chain of command, our military, do not have a care to protect their service members. They don't have our service members six their back. They don't. And they don't care about being a military of one, an army of one, or be all you can be. No. I mean, you don't allow the barracks flush with weapons while you are using it as a marketplace for illegal drugs and a place for sexual harassment and rape, and know that there is a suicide problem, a PTS problem, and then you say, oh, but I care about my service members. You will know them by their fruit. And when Richard saw something and said something, then they do a code red on him continuously until it's escalated and they murder him. And that's what the Department of State just told us, that it was. Now, Leilani's the one that's called it a code red. She wrote all about it, right? This is a code red. And the Department of State said yes, it was a code red. And remains of Richard were found in Juarez, Mexico, in Mexico. So that's what's going on. If they want to make their argument and show documents, send us documents, they can. They can. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate it so much. We're burning the midnight oil again, um, but we're very, very grateful that you're with us doing it. We love you, and we're going to get justice for Richard, and help our service members. I think this will have huge ramifications. So for our military, our service members, getting justice for Richard. Thank you, everyone.